Hello, my name is Matthias Cavodi. I like to welcome guys to my channel. Today we're going to talk about Iceman. He's one of my all-time favorite X-Men. He's one of the coolest. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Pardon for the pun. Tell you guys how I discovered this character, and then focus on one of the first stories that I thought was really good with Iceman that took place in Uncanny X-Men 331, which this is the original issue where I bought it. Some bastard put the price on it and I can't get it off. I don't want to ruin the cover. But this was like the first Iceman story, standalone Iceman story that I thought was really awesome. Showed a lot of growth for the character. So, and also, it came in the order that I was buying comic books at the time. Probably there are other Iceman stories that are more relevant, but this was the first one I came across. Back in the late 80s, I remember seeing Iceman in that Spider-Man cartoon. Yeah, Iceman, Firestar, and Spidey teamed up, went on adventures. It was a lot of fun. And I had no idea back then. I was really young. Just started to get into comic books. I discovered the X-Men. The Iceman was on the X-Men. And I remember buying the Nintendo game. On the cartridge, you would see all the X-Men and a guy all in white in the back. Which, for some reason, I thought was the Silver Surfer. I thought, it was like, what the hell is the Silver Surfer doing on the team? So, later on, I discovered it was Iceman. So, that game was really terrible. Don't play it. It's so frustrating. Here we have Iceman from Marvel Series 1. And one of the things that really drew me to Iceman is the whole thing with his ice slides and stuff like that. I thought it was so cool. It's such an awesome concept. As I said before in my previous video with Captain America, I used to love to see the stats of all the battles. And this sort of created like a weird comic book OCD for me, because from this point on, I sort of became like obsessed with the battles and who would win and lose in those battles. And so I actually tallied the stats for every single comic book that I have. It's something I just can't help myself. So we have Marvel Series 1. You can see he's a pretty relevant character because he was on all the main Marvel series, Marvel Series 1, Marvel Series 2, which I just really loved. Something I forgot to mention, I love to see the stats on the back, and I would compare the stats between characters and imagine if they would get into battles, who would win. So here we had speed, agility, stamina, durability, intelligence, and on these you would have later collections. You would have strength, intelligence, energy projection, what they can blast, mental powers, fighting abilities, and speed. So I would get the stats from both collections and have all my favorite heroes battle each other and see, at least with my imagination, and using these stats to see who would defeat who. It was just something really fun that I would do. I was the only child. I had a lot of time alone. And this is my favorite card collection, was the Jim Lee X-Men series. That was really freaking awesome. For me, this is Jim Lee's best work. This is a personal thing, but I think here's where you see some of his greatest drawings. They're all timeless. I have Iceman's character sheets. I don't know if Marvel still makes these. Got these during the late 80s. Again, you didn't have internet. You would get most of the information off these cards. That's why they were like must-haves, especially if you're just starting to collect. But these character sheets brought everything you needed to know about the characters, especially all their appearances and what happened in each one of those appearances. This was like a real big deal. I used to love these character sheets. I would study the hell out of them, so I would know where to go buy, which comic book backed issues were good to go out, search and buy and stuff like that. So here's Iceman. His basic character designs pretty much stayed the same over the years. I have like a really awesome old school Toy Biz Iceman action figure. I think it was the second one that came out. I don't think I have the first one. That one was really cool. So let's get into Uncanny X-Men 331, written by Scott Lobdell and illustrated by Bryan Hitch. So what we have right off the bat, we have X-Force. This particular era I already covered on my channel of X-Force. I really loved the Adam Polina era. He was the main artist on that series. a accident at Beast Lab. Something went wrong, explodes. X-Force jumps in to give Hank McCoy a hand, but we're not interested with that. We're interested with the White Queen, Emma Frost. She's not a villain anymore during this time. She was one of like the headmasters of Generation X. As she and Banshee would work together with the new generation of mutants. Thing is, a while back, Emma Frost got into Iceman's head and really discovered the true potential of Iceman's powers. Because seemingly that we discovered over the years that Iceman's always like sort of been holding back with his powers. He never really tapped into the true potential of his power set. It's like he's sort of afraid of it. He's an Omega level mutant, and we really discover a lot more about Bobby in the Avengers. No, X-Men Forever story arc. That's a must read. Like if you're really into X-Men, that particular story, 6 issues long, explains a ton of things about the X-Men side of the Marvel Universe. So, Iceman confronts Emma over this whole situation when she got into his head and used his powers in ways he never had used them before. So Emma, because the problem is that Iceman, in a battle against one of Onslaught's heralds, this is like going into the whole Onslaught crossover, punches a hole through Iceman. Now he's afraid to turn back into his human form. So, with Emma Frost to teach him, or help him use his powers, so he can go back to human form and not die. And Emma Frost is like, no, you have to learn for yourself. You have to learn how to push yourself, use your powers, grow up. Like he's always sort of like an eternal teenager, always hitting on women, never taking responsibility. He's very similar in many ways to the Human Torch on the Fantastic Four. Emma starts using her mental powers on Iceman to really just push him and get him pissed off, to make him use his powers and not be such a coward. And the main idea of the story is just to illustrate how Iceman has to sort of grow up, mature, take responsibility, in this case responsibility over his powers, not be so afraid. And he turns back, and Emma Frost really lets up on him. She's actually started to be nice with him because she was sort of being a bitch. And Iceman's like sort of was really scared over the whole ordeal, and so shows this character in another light. So that's what I want to share with you guys. This is like the first story I really took notice of Iceman as a really interesting character, and one of the few times that he gets to shine on his own during this time of the X-Men. So this is why I like Iceman. And I hope you guys like this video, and see you guys next time.